Hey Man United fans, it's Anne again, and today we are diving deep into some massive transfer news that every Red Devils supporter needs to hear, because United's summer is shaping up to be one of the most exciting in recent memory. We've got a potential defensive gem on the radar, a midfield overhaul that Fabrizio Romano himself has confirmed, and some really interesting updates on a couple of players already at the club. So grab your drink, settle in, and let's get into it. Let's start with the news that's been buzzing around the United world today. KARIM KOULIBALY. Now, if you haven't heard this name yet, trust me, you're going to be hearing it a lot over the next few months. Werder Bremen's 18-year-old center back has been turning heads all over Europe, and according to Sky Deutschland, Manchester United are among the clubs who have sent scouts to watch him in action. So who exactly is KARIM KOULIBALY? Well, let me paint you a picture, because this kid is genuinely something special. He's a left-footed center back, already a rare find in itself, standing at an imposing 6'3". He's been described as incredibly fast, which for a center back of that size is almost unheard of. And on top of the physical attributes, he plays with a composure on the ball that you just don't expect from someone who is only 18 years old and has only been in the Werder Bremen first team since the start of this season. Since breaking into the side, he's already racked up 22 league appearances. 22. In his debut senior season. That tells you everything about the level of trust his manager has in him. He's a Germany under-21 international as well, so there's already that recognition at international level that this is a player with serious pedigree and serious potential. When you combine the size, the pace, the left foot, the composure, and the age, you understand why people are calling him a unicorn profile. Because that combination genuinely doesn't come along very often. And United are not the only ones who have noticed. Europe's biggest clubs are all circling. But here's the bit that United fans might not love hearing. Chelsea are reportedly ahead of the queue. They've already made contact with Koulibaly's representatives, which gives them a significant head start in any potential transfer race. In football, that kind of early groundwork can make all the difference. What makes this even more interesting is a claim that has come out alongside the scouting reports, and it's a bold one. It's being said that a Koulibaly transfer this summer is 100% planned. So this isn't a case of maybe, possibly, could happen. The expectation from those in the know is that he will be leaving Werder Bremen when the window opens. The question is simply, who gets him? Werder's managing director Clemens Fritz appears to have accepted the reality that they are going to lose their young star. But he's not going to let him go cheaply. The price being quoted is between 40 and 50 million euros. That's roughly 35 to 43 million pounds. Now, for an 18-year-old with only one senior season under his belt, that is a significant fee. But in today's market, for a player of this profile and this potential, clubs will absolutely pay it. And this is actually very consistent with how United have operated under the Ineos ownership. The recruitment team has developed a very clear identity. They want young players with elite potential. Players who are not the finished article yet, but who have the raw materials to develop into world-class performers at Old Trafford. Sound familiar? Because we've seen this exact approach before. Which brings me perfectly onto Lenny Yoro. Because Koulibaly's situation immediately draws comparisons to the signing of the French defender from Lille back in 2024. United paid over £50 million for Yoro, who was also a teenage center back with enormous potential and a profile that had the whole of Europe interested. Real Madrid were in the race for Yoro, which tells you how highly rated he was. And Yoro has shown glimpses, real glimpses, of why United were so excited to get him. His technical ability, his reading of the game, his composure under pressure, it's all there. But has he fully kicked on and nailed down a starting spot? Not yet. He hasn't yet established himself as a regular starter at Old Trafford, and there are clearly areas of his game that the coaching staff want to see improve. The specific detail that has emerged recently is that the coaches at Carrington want Yoro to work on the aggressive side of his game. Now that's an interesting note. Because the modern center back has to do everything, You need to be good with the ball, yes, but you also need to be able to defend. You need to be physical, you need to be willing to put your body on the line, win headers, make tackles, impose yourself on strikers. And the feeling from those at the training ground is that Yoro needs to dial that side of his game up a level. It's not a criticism that should concern fans too much. He's still very young, and these are exactly the kinds of adjustments a player makes as they develop. But it's worth noting in the context of United potentially adding another young center back to the mix. The message seems to be, development is great, but we need defenders who can also be warriors. Now, before we move on to the absolutely massive midfield news, let's quickly address the Harry Maguire update, because it actually provides some important context for all of this. Manchester United have officially extended Harry Maguire's contract. His deal was due to expire at the end of this season, and the club have handed him a new one-year deal with the option of a further 12 months on top of that. And the reason is simple. Maguire has been outstanding under Michael Carrick. Now, if you'd told United fans a couple of years ago that we'd be sitting here in April 2026 talking about Maguire as a key player who deserves a new contract, a lot of people would have laughed. The big man went through an incredibly difficult period where he was one of the most criticized players at the club. But football has a funny way of writing redemption arcs, and Maguire has absolutely written one. His performances this season have been the kind that remind you of why United paid so much for him in the first place. Leadership, organization, aerial presence, reading of the game, he's brought all of it. And keeping him at the club means United go into the summer without a desperate need to sign a center back. They're not in panic mode in defense. That said, and this is the key point, the club's recruitment team are still exploring the market for a defensive player with high potential. They're not being reactive, they're being proactive. And KOULIBALY fits that profile perfectly. This is a calculated, forward-thinking piece of business they're exploring, not a desperate fix. Okay, now let's get into the news that is genuinely massive, and it comes straight from the most reliable voice in the transfer market, Fabrizio Romano. Romano has confirmed, not speculated, not hinted, that Manchester United will sign at least 2 midfielders this summer. 2. And the reason why becomes very clear when you look at what's happening with the current squad. Let's start with Casemiro. The Brazilian legend, 5-time Champions League winner, is leaving when the season ends. 4 years at Old Trafford, and what a career it's been. This season he has been remarkable. 29 appearances, 28 starts, over 2,100 minutes in the league alone. 7 goals in the Premier League this season, 2 assists. For a defensive midfielder, that is an exceptional return. And even with competition from younger midfielders in the squad, he has kept his starting spot throughout the campaign. But the end has come, and United now face the challenge of replacing a player who, in his prime, was arguably the best defensive midfielder in world football. That is not a simple task. Whoever comes in to fill that void will have enormous boots to fill. And then there's Manuel Ugarte. Now this is the news that will surprise some fans, because Ugarte only arrived from Paris Saint-Germain for £42 million. The 24-year-old Uruguayan has 2 more years on his contract, plus an option for an additional year. On paper, he should be here for the long haul, but Romano has said that some movements have already started to find solutions for Ugarte, with Ajax and Galatasaray among the clubs linked. The conclusion United have reached, after watching him across 2 seasons, is that he is not dependable enough to be the long-term answer in midfield. That's a ruthless call. But this is modern elite football. If a player hasn't convinced the coaching staff that he's the right profile for the project, the decision gets made quickly and decisively. And so, with Casemiro going and Ugarte likely going, United suddenly have a significant hole, potentially 2 significant holes, in the middle of the park. Romano himself laid it out clearly. With Casemiro leaving, Ugarte leaving, and United playing European football next season, almost certainly Champions League football, they need 2 more midfielders. That's the target. 2 signings in the engine room of the team. Now, who those midfielders will be, Romano hasn't revealed yet, but the fact that he's coming out and saying this publicly attributing it directly to his information means the groundwork is already being laid. Conversations are happening. Targets have been identified. The machinery is in motion. And look, this is where it gets really exciting as a United fan, because you put all of this together and you start to see the shape of what Ineos are building. Michael Carrick has a clear identity for how he wants this team to play. High energy, technical, progressive. The signings being targeted reflect that. Young players with high ceilings, players who can grow within the system and become elite performers at Old Trafford over multiple seasons. Koulibaly in defense. 2 new midfielders who fit the profile. And within the squad, players like Kobbie Mainoo and Yoro still developing and improving. The Maguire extension buys time and stability at the back. The potential Ugarte sale frees up funds and a spot for someone who better fits what Carrick needs. And the 2 midfield signings, whoever they turn out to be, will be the defining business of the summer. United are also not in a position where they're scrambling. They've planned this. The scouting missions to watch Koulibaly, the conversations Romano is referring to regarding midfield targets, the decision on Ugarte made early enough to give the club time to find a buyer and reinvest the money wisely. This is structured, intelligent recruitment. So let's bring it all together and talk about what this summer could realistically look like. In defense, Maguire staying gives you experience and leadership. Yoro continuing his development gives you long-term potential. And if United can win the race for Koulibaly, fending off Chelsea and whoever else comes in, you suddenly have a back line with a beautiful blend of qualities. Maguire's reading of the game and leadership, Yoro's technical ability, and Koulibaly's athleticism and physical presence. That's a genuinely exciting defensive unit for the future. In midfield, losing Casemiro and Ugarte is painful in terms of squad depth, but it also clears the path for 2 new faces who fit the modern profile Carrick wants. Mainoo will be central to everything. He's been one of the most exciting young midfielders in England over the past couple of seasons. Mason Mount will be hoping to stay fit and contribute, and 2 new additions could transform that area of the pitch entirely. The big caveat, as always with United, is competition. Chelsea have the head start on Koulibaly. The midfield market is going to be ferociously competitive, with major clubs across Europe all looking to strengthen in that area. United will need to be decisive, and they will need to act early. But the signs so far are encouraging. The fact that Romano is already talking about this in April, the fact that scouts have been sent to watch Koulibaly, the fact that decisions on Ugarte and Casemiro appear to have been made well in advance of the window opening. This is a club that is planning, not reacting. Alright guys, that is everything for today's video. To summarize the big headlines, United are tracking Werder Bremen's KARIM Koulibaly, with Werder valuing him between 40 and 50 million euros, and Chelsea currently leading the race. Harry Maguire has signed a contract extension after a superb season under Michael Carrick. Yoro is being pushed to develop a more aggressive defensive edge. Manuel Ugarte looks set to leave in the summer alongside Casemiro. And Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that United will sign at least 2 midfielders when the window opens. It is shaping up to be one hell of a summer at Old Trafford, and I, for one, cannot wait to see how it all unfolds. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button. It genuinely helps the channel more than you know. Subscribe if you haven't already so you never miss an update, and drop a comment below letting me know, who would you want United to sign in midfield this summer? I want to hear your thoughts. I'll see you in the next one. Come on, United!